Have you ever found yourself sitting alone in a quiet room, maybe the hum of a distant TV in the background, and you suddenly ask yourself, is this it? Is this what my life has become? I think many of us have had moments like that. Moments where the silence is louder than any conversation, and the days feel a little too similar to each other. Maybe you've spent years giving to others, your spouse, your children, your job, and now it feels like your time has just quietly slipped away without asking if you still had dreams left to chase. Well, let me tell you a little story. It's not a perfect one. It's messy, it's complicated, and yes, it's a little scandalous. But it's also very human. Because sometimes, in the middle of all that loneliness, we do things we never thought we would, just to feel alive again. I used to be the woman who baked for every church potluck, kept the floors clean, and made sure the mail never sat in the box longer than a few hours. I'd smile at the neighbors, make dinner every night by 6, and kiss my husband on the cheek even when he didn't look up from his phone. I was dependable. I was responsible. I was invisible, and I didn't plan to lie. Honestly, it started so small. I told him I had a book club, and he smiled. He said, "Oh, what are you reading?" And I stuttered for a second before saying The Nightingale. I hadn't read it, still haven't, but he was so interested, leaning in with that smile that made my knees feel weak in a way I hadn't felt since disco was still a thing. And just like that, I became a woman with a secret. Now, before you raise your eyebrows too high, let me say this: I'm not here to glorify affairs. I'm not telling anyone to go out and lie to their partner or sneak around behind their back. But what I do want to talk about is how easy it is to disappear in your own life, especially after 60. People stop seeing you, even the ones closest to you. I didn't start that fake book club because I wanted to destroy anything. I started it because I was starving for attention, for affection, for someone to look at me and see a woman. Not just a wife, not just a mother or a cook or a cleaning lady, just me. And it turns out someone did. He was kind, he was curious. He didn't ask me what I had for dinner or whether I paid the water bill. He asked about my dreams, my favorite color, whether I still danced in the kitchen when no one was watching. And yes, we started meeting on the nights I said I was going to. Book club. I'd leave the house with a novel in my bag, just in case anyone asked. But the only story being written was ours. Now, some people might say I was chasing a fantasy. And maybe they're right. But let me ask you, when was the last time someone made you feel like you were the only one in the room? Like your words mattered, like your touch could still spark something electric. That's what he gave me. And no, it wasn't perfect. It was full of guilt and second guessing and awkward silences when I came home and had to pretend I'd just been talking about literature. But in between all that, there were moments that reminded me I was still alive, that I wasn't just someone's background noise. I remember lying beside him once, staring at the ceiling and whispering, "I used to love writing poems when I was younger." He turned to me and said, "Then write me one." And I did. Right there, under his arm, with my head on his chest, I wrote a poem for the first time in 30 years. It wasn't Shakespeare, but it was mine, and it mattered to someone. Here's what I've learned since this all started. Whether or not this affair lasts, whether or not it ever becomes something more, it pulled me out of a place where I'd started to forget I was even a person anymore. It reminded me that desire doesn't have an expiration date, that curiosity, excitement, and longing don't just stop because you've hit a certain number on the calendar. I think sometimes we need to admit that loneliness doesn't always show up with sad music playing in the background. Sometimes it looks like routine, like doing the same things every day and pretending that's enough. Like being polite instead of passionate, like talking about what's for dinner instead of what's in your heart. So if you've ever found yourself staring at the ceiling at night, wondering if this is really all there is, I see you. And no, I'm not saying you need to go have an affair or lie to your spouse. But I am saying it's okay to want more. It's okay to feel like you still have chapters left to write in your story. Maybe for you, it's not a fake book club. Maybe it's painting. Maybe it's learning to play the piano again. Maybe it's taking a dance class or traveling somewhere with nothing but your suitcase and a sense of adventure. But whatever it is, don't let anyone, not even your own doubts, tell you it's too late to feel alive again. Because you are still here. You are still you. And that is more than enough. I didn't mean for it to go on this long. I really didn't. At first, I thought it would be one of those brief, flickering moments, like a dream that fades with the morning sun. Something to remind me that I could still feel something, still be wanted. But it didn't fade, it deepened. And the strangest part, I started looking forward to the lie. Wednesday nights became sacred in a way I hadn't felt since my kids were small, and I'd curl up with them to read bedtime stories. But now the story was mine. A fiction, yes, but one that somehow made me feel more real than anything else in my week. I dressed differently. A little lipstick. Perfume I hadn't worn in years. I would tell myself it was for me, that it made me feel fresh, new. And in a way, that was true. But we all know better, don't we? When someone looks at you like you're a gift, it changes something inside. You carry yourself differently. You remember you have hips and curves and a voice that doesn't just ask about groceries or doctor's appointments. I told him once that I was scared. Scared of being caught, scared of what it said about me. And he didn't tell me not to be. He just reached for my hand and said, "You deserve to feel seen, not judged, not scolded, just seen." That stayed with me. It's funny how simple words can cut through years of silence, isn't it? I wish I could tell you it made everything better, that I came home more confident and vibrant, like the movies say, but it's not that clean. I'd sit at the dinner table across from my husband, who'd be scrolling through his phone, and I'd wonder how we got so far apart without ever yelling, without any big betrayal. We just drifted, like two boats that used to sail side by side and now don't even share the same current. And that's what makes it all so hard. He's not a bad man. He's not cruel. But he stopped noticing me a long time ago. And when I tried to bring it up, tried to say that I felt lonely even when he was sitting right next to me, he'd shrug and say we're just older now. Like passion had an expiration date, and I should be grateful for companionship and quiet. But I wasn't built for quiet. Not completely. I think most of us aren't. We just get good at pretending we are. That's why the book club lie became more than just a cover. It became a place to dream again, to stretch, to laugh too loud and kiss like we were in our 20s. And maybe that's reckless, but maybe, just maybe, it's also a little bit brave. I know someone out there might be thinking, but what about the vows? The promises? And yes, I think about them too. Every time I slip out the door, every time I come back and smile like nothing happened. But then I remember, vows are not just about staying physically faithful. They're about showing up, listening, growing together. And that part, that's been missing for a long time. Still, the guilt has a weight to it. I carry it around quietly, tucked between the folds of my neatly folded laundry and the dinners I still make without being asked. There's always that whisper in the back of my mind, what if someone finds out? What if it all falls apart? But the other whisper, the one that says you're allowed to feel joy, that one's growing louder. We don't talk enough about women over 60 feeling desire, do we? We talk about menopause, about retirement plans, about bone density and sensible shoes, but we rarely talk about longing, about aching for connection, about rediscovering your body and your voice after decades of putting others first. I remember standing in front of the mirror once, not too long ago, and seeing every wrinkle, every soft line that time had carved into my face. And instead of cringing like I used to, I smiled. Because for the first time in a long time, I recognized the woman looking back at me, not just as a wife or a mother or a neighbor, but as a woman with her own story, still unfolding. He made me feel that. The man I meet on Wednesday nights, he doesn't ask me to be anything but myself. And when he runs his fingers through my hair, there's no commentary on the gray strands, just appreciation, tenderness. Now, I'm not saying this is the right path for everyone. It's not even one I'd recommend. But it's the path I found myself on, one step at a time, one lie at a time, and as wrong as it might seem on paper, in my heart, it brought me back to life. Because here's the truth, whether we like to admit it or not, after a certain age, the world starts acting like you're done, like your story has been told and the rest is just credits rolling. But that's not true, not even close. We still want to be touched, to be heard, to be excited by the idea of someone waiting for us, someone who chooses us, not out of obligation, but out of genuine want. And for now, even if it's just one night a week, I get to feel that. I get to feel wanted, alive, desired. There's something strange that happens when you start living two lives. It's like standing on a narrow bridge with one foot on each side, always trying to keep your balance. On one side, there's comfort, stability, the life everyone sees. On the other, there's fire, a quiet, smoldering flame that reminds you you're still human, still capable of feeling more than just routine. And let me tell you something, sugar. It's exhausting. Not just the sneaking around, or the stories I have to keep straight, but the weight of it. The emotional tightrope. The constant wondering if I'm a terrible person, or if I'm just finally being honest with myself after decades of playing a role I never really auditioned for. I've started asking myself harder questions lately. What do I actually want? If I stripped away the guilt, the expectations, the fear of disappointing people, what would I choose for me? I still don't have a clean answer. Because the truth is, I don't want to blow up my life. I don't want to hurt the man I married, who I once loved with my whole heart. I don't want to explain to my grown children why their mother, after all these years, decided she wanted more, that she wanted different. I don't even know if they'd understand. I barely understand it myself. But what I do know is this. I no longer want to be invisible. For years, I moved through my home like a ghost. I cooked, I cleaned, I folded clothes and filled prescriptions and booked appointments. I made sure everyone else had what they needed, but I stopped asking what I needed, and when I did try to ask, the world gave me silence. Or worse, a pat on the back and a reminder to be grateful. Grateful. Grateful that I had a husband who didn't cheat. Grateful that I had a house to clean, and grandchildren to spoil, and a life without chaos. And I am grateful. But I also want to feel something beyond gratitude. I want to feel thrill. I want to feel wanted. I want to feel like I matter outside of everyone else's needs. And isn't that a kind of honesty too? There's a moment every Wednesday night when I'm lying beside him, my fake book club long forgotten, and he strokes my back in silence. No words, no expectations, just presence. I feel more seen in that moment than I have in years. But then I go home and the quiet hits different. The lights are too bright, the air too still. My husband might be dozing on the recliner, TV remote in hand, the same sitcom reruns playing over and over, and I realize how far apart we really are, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. Like we're on opposite ends of a life we used to build together. And you know what the hardest part is? I miss who we used to be, the version of us before time made everything so muted. When he used to sneak up behind me and wrap his arms around my waist while I was doing dishes. When he'd write silly notes and leave them in my coat pocket. When we'd dance in the kitchen to songs from our youth, barefoot and tipsy on cheap wine. But people change. Life wears on you. You get tired. You grow in different directions. And before you know it, you're roommates with a stranger who still knows exactly how you take your coffee, but doesn't know how to touch your heart anymore. So what do you do with that? When the marriage is still standing, but the love has gone quiet, maybe you lie about a book club. Maybe you meet someone who looks at you like you're still worth chasing. Maybe you do something you never thought you were capable of. Not because you're cruel or careless, but because you're finally, desperately, trying to feel alive again. And yes, I know it's complicated. I know some people would call it selfish, irresponsible, maybe even disgusting. But here's something else I've learned after 60. You start living for truth, not approval. You stop asking permission to feel good in your skin. You stop waiting for someone else to tell you it's okay to want more. You stop shrinking, and you start reclaiming the pieces of yourself you've quietly tucked away all these years. Now, this doesn't mean you throw caution to the wind or forget the people who count on you. It just means you start honoring the person inside the titles. The woman beneath the layers. The human who still has desire, curiosity, imagination, and a need for connection. That's what this affair became for me. A mirror, a reminder. Not just of what I was missing, but of who I still am. I can't say what tomorrow looks like. I don't know how long this lie will last, or if it will unravel in a mess I can't fix. But for now, I'll keep going to my book club on Wednesdays. I'll keep letting myself feel the things I thought were gone forever. And I'll keep figuring out what it means to be honest with myself. Even if the truth is messy, painful, or not what others expect from a woman my age. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I told the truth. Not the half-truth I live in now, not the gentle nods or soft silences that pass for understanding, but the real truth. What if I sat across from my husband and said, I haven't felt loved in a long time. I haven't felt seen. And I've been searching for that somewhere else. Would he cry? Would he yell? Would he finally open his mouth and say all the things I've been itching to hear? Or would he go quiet, the way he always does, and let it all pass like weather? I don't know. Maybe I'll never know, because the hardest truth of all is that I don't just lie to him. I lie to myself, too. I pretend it's just a bit of fun. I pretend I'm not still holding out hope for something deeper, something lasting, something I never had words for until recently. And maybe, in some strange way, this whole messy thing has been less about the man I meet in that cozy little hotel room, and more about the woman who walks in there every week feeling like she belongs to herself again. You see, when you hit 60 or 70 or beyond, people stop asking you about passion, about joy, about desire. They start treating you like you've already lived your best years. Like everything from here on out is just quiet days, cozy slippers, and warm tea. But I'm here to tell you that's a lie. There is so much life left in us. There is still fire, still curiosity, still that little spark in your belly when someone looks at you like you're the most beautiful person in the room. Still those secret dreams and unspoken longings we keep locked up behind polite smiles and good manners. And the older I get, the more I realize none of us are too old to feel alive again. We just need permission. Not from others, but from ourselves. So maybe your lie isn't a book club. Maybe it's a painting class you never signed up for. Or a solo trip you told your friends was a retreat, but was really just a way to escape the noise. Maybe you're still with someone who loves you, but doesn't know how to show it. Or maybe you've been alone for so long that the idea of love feels like a foreign language. Whatever your story is, I hope you know this: it's not too late to rewrite the next chapter. You don't have to burn your life down to light a new fire. Sometimes it starts with a whisper, a small yes, a choice to stop waiting and start living. And yes, it might be messy. You might disappoint a few people. You might even disappoint the version of yourself you thought you had to be. But you also might surprise yourself. You might find a part of you that's been waiting quietly in the corners, hoping you'd notice her again. The brave one, the bold one, the one who still dreams when no one's watching. I think about her all the time now. I try to take care of her. I try to let her lead more often, because she's the reason I'm still standing, still reaching, still loving, even if it's imperfect, even if it's hidden. And if you're sitting there, listening to this with a heavy heart or a tear in your eye, just know I see you. I really do. Your story matters. Your desires matter. You are not invisible. Maybe you've never had a chance to speak your truth. Maybe you've never felt like anyone would listen. But I'm here. We're here. And this is your space to feel safe, to feel understood, to feel seen. So if you've ever lied about something small just to feel something big, I get it. And if you're still waiting to feel wanted again, to feel excited, to feel more than just useful, I want to remind you that it's okay to want more. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you human. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Share your story in the comments, no matter how small or how complicated. This is a place without judgment. Just real people with real hearts trying to make sense of this wild, beautiful life. If this story touched something in you, please give the video a like. It helps more people like us find each other. And if you haven't yet, subscribe for more honest, soulful stories about living fully at every age. Because here's the truth, my dear friend. Life doesn't end when the kids move out, or when the wrinkles set in, or when the world stops seeing you. Sometimes that's exactly when it begins. Here's to living boldly, loving honestly, and never apologizing for wanting to feel something real. Even if we have to make up a book club to get there.